Good evening. We're back at it, doing it again, running all of this stuff. I'm still building to make sure that all of my data can be created correctly. It's getting better. I've got it kind of fixed for most stuff. There's a couple of other features I didn't have built in. One is when I had bad stats data, I was normalizing it as it went into my working data, like the player pool. But I want to normalize it at the source so that when it's imported into other environments, we don't have to do that. So if I normalize the seed data files, eventually what I'll do is have the things normalized as I build the seed data files, so that it won't even have to be ran. So we'll just have to run every team to make sure it runs through the correct source. So what we're doing here, now what I mean by normalize is there are certain values that are inconsistent through different sources, primarily the team. Like in one place, Green Bay might be GNB instead of just GB, which NFL uses GB, but I guess some older references used GNB. And there's a number of those, like San Diego might be SDG instead of SD. And that kind of stuff just kind of causes me consternation. so I have to get that out of there. One of the things that's happening through all of this is once it's done running all these players, you see I have all these scaling values that run through here. This is first process. It goes through and defines what the min and max of every value is by looking at every single player. And then it runs through again and lets every player balance against those min and maxes so that we get reasonable. So what's happening here is now it's regenerating everybody based on what the min and maxes are of the scaling. Now scaling is how all the players get balanced against each other. This is make sure that they get scaled to the best player, to the worst player, and everybody falls somewhere in the middle. Everybody. There's actually, the minimum is actually slightly less than the worst player at a given position. So like say a wide receiver, let's say a wide receiver ends up with a 72 rating. He's the worst. Let's say he's the worst. I don't think he is, because I think I have a minimum that's lower than that. But then I'll give everybody who's not a receiver, they'll get like a 71 or something like that. Something just underneath. So they'll be worse than the worst receiver. Though they could be okay. If they have any history, they could actually line up in there. But you can see here now I don't have any more scaling value updates. Once we've ran through 500, 1,000, 1,500, so we got one more to go. There shouldn't be any more scaling value updates because it's going to go, oh, well, we already said all this stuff. Anyhow, so once this runs through and if I get all my teams set, I'm hoping that when it merges records, which is what it's supposed to do when there's duplicate records, which is to say, we have players that were changed teams, like they were they were traded or something. You know, they went from team to team, which in that case, they don't merge. Not yet. I want to, but I haven't got them to do that yet. The second thing that has to happen is if it's just the wrong team, hopefully it'll merge them. So I shouldn't have as many. Right now I've got 27 records that need to be resolved. And I'm hoping that this will fix half of those at least. It's not that many that get traded that show up with stats. A lot of times players that get traded are just there for backup and they don't often get much play time. Not always, but sometimes. So we're waiting for all this to finish running. Let's see here. So initialized data here will be done when it's done. So we're still chugging away on player skills. But it is moving way faster. It's actually only taking minutes instead of yesterday. I think it was almost an hour. How's it going, Karama? And it looks like we also have a bot here to join me again. How's it going, guys? Odds are good. I really, really, really want to get this going. This is not like cleanup stuff, but it's got to get done because it's all part of the final distribution. Because I want to have my man back at you. No, I want to be able to have a demo, and I need to make sure that all of my, when I can actually deploy this, it needs to be able to go out to prod and be working before I can create an APK that works, right? Because it's got to create a valid backend. I'm excited to just create an APK, put it on a phone, and actually see it work from a phone. That would be cool. But it won't be able to work from a phone until I can make my data internet accessible. So that's why I got to get it to I got to be able to deploy it to prod. My APK won't work until the data is available. I don't know, is it still going? Something's taking long. I expect this should be done by now. You know, we're still doing something. Let's go see. Oh, no, that takes a while. That's probably fine. That's not a bug. I expected that would take some time. I don't know, maybe there's a way to speed that up, but I'm not terribly concerned about that. If it only takes 6 minutes to deploy all my data, it's going to happen once, or once a year, that I have to deploy any significant amount of data or rerun these stats. So we're talking 6 minutes once a year, or once a week if I ever get to do the thing. What is boat day? Well, I hate a boat. You hate a boat today. What is, you hate a boat today? Why? You don't like boats today? What did a boat do to you? I'll be right back. I go to get a drink of water. I get some water. I've made further updates to my chair as I keep trying to make it. I'm trying to make it less terrible. I've got like blankets configured in a way so that it leans forward better. I kind of figured out there's a knob on the bottom that kind of helps. And then I took another blanket and I rolled it up in a big old ball to create some low back support. It doesn't seem as bad. I'm not slouching as much. But that's not to say that it's, see, here's my thing. And I actually let it fold over wrong, because when I got up, it fell. This is a crap chair, man, I'm telling you. Yeah. All right. Hopefully that'll, plus it helps me to sit up straight. Just I'm less slouchy inclined, I think. All right, I think it finished. No, it's still doing something. Dang it. I don't know why I'm gonna go see if I can find this guy. I have something that's got Ron Bartel going through my system. I don't know if I need him. I kind of wanted this because it shows me his stats, but I think ultimately I don't know if I need his stats. I would just like to see stats. Like have all the stats pop and then have the ones that are showing up at their min and max or something. But not necessarily being shown by this guy. Because, I don't know. I think that character is one of the very first ones I put in the there he is. Oh, okay, so this call is doing the right logs. So wherever I got process players for skill ratings. This guy is being called Ah, it's being passed in from this guy. Set this to false for now. So I gotta wait for it to... Why did it run a second time? Might have more scaling values. I shouldn't have scale valued again. Huh? What? I don't know, man. Sometimes I'm wondering what you're smoking. It's hard to keep up with your odd your oddities, man. I don't know where you coming from. Racket. What? You guys, I don't understand what stuff you're throwing out there, man. Between you talking about eating paint and racket, I don't know what racket is. Rakiti? At first I thought those were exclamation points, but they're upside down. And now in Spanish there's such a thing, but not usually at the end of a word. What are you doing? Come on, man. Holding me up. I gotta figure out how to speed this nonsense up. Alright. Alright, we're done. We have processed everybody. Okay. Complete. Alright, so let's go back over to... let's go run this thing again. Is it still 76 or are we down some? Okay, so this is telling me that the problem isn't the names. Still 76, but at least we have proper names. So nobody's got a broken name ID. So now I got to figure out why else they're off. So if I was to look at, say, Philip Rivers. Oh, it's Adrian Peterson. Where's Adrian Peterson? Hey, Adrian! Adrian? Adrian! Okay. Why doesn't it display it in the same order it shows them to me? I think I'm on green is number 2 though. Adrian Peterson. Oh, you know. Oh, he might not be in here anymore. Wait, he is in here. I'm on green. It says Chicago. Alright, I'm confused. How come? I don't think our filters are working the same. Because this says 76. But Adrian Peterson is not actually in the output here. So I don't think that's right. Because Adrian Peterson does not have... He's 2 different players on here. So what's the difference for Almond Green? Let's go look. This is Adrian Peterson. Alright, so I'm on green, who's right here. So on green base, 32, but one doesn't have a position. So it's correct. And it has his receptions. Everything else matches. Do they say that in Rome? I think you're mixing metaphors, my friend. Just a little bit. I think it's eat some paint today keeps the doctor away, which of course it doesn't because you're also changing the metaphor. But the other one is when in Rome, do as Romans do, and I don't think Romans eat paint. I don't know that there's any particular nationality that eats paint as a normal thing. So, I'm pretty sure all of those metaphors you're using that you broke are not correct. Okay, so it's still 76. I can merge them, but I got to figure out a dynamic way to do so. Let's go see who's next on the list. Alex Smith. How far down the list is Alex? There he is, Alex Smith. Alex Smith, Philadelphia and San Francisco. Is it the same Alex Smith? Tight end, 27. Nope. One's a quarterback, one's a tight end, and they don't match in year or even games played. So those are different players. It's not necessarily wrong that they're in there with two records because some of these are single name checks. But when it shows something like they're on the same team, so if their teams match, that's when it gets tricky. Those guys should probably match. The odds are very poor that two guys on the same team, like Mike Vrabel, sorry Mike, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Antonio Gates is obviously, there's only one Antonio Gates. He's on San Diego, his position doesn't match, but everything else does. What stats did he have on the broken one? Scoring and reception. See, I need all of that stuff. And I think it's probably just improper on the stats. I think a lot of these I'll fix when I create valid imports. I'm going to actually do imports. No, because you said they. So you would need at least two people in Rome. And in order for you to use the phrase "as they say," you would have to have some some proof that you know somebody said it, because you can't state for a matter of fact "as they say" without having actually heard them say or seeing a reference to them saying it. So you need at least two people and some proof that they did do it. Not simply, I'm guessing somebody somewhere in Rome said this. That's not saying they say, because you don't know that they said that. You're basically just making up nonsense, which you are. So you're just making up nonsense, which we know you are. then yeah, that's not a valid saying. You and your nonsensicalisms. I honestly think I should just merge anybody who, when the teams all match, they should just be merged. I don't think it's likely that two guys with the same name are going to be on the same team, but I think I can do something more. Sure. I've known people from Rome who have talked to me on multiple occasions, so I know they say something. And the saying is, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. It doesn't make any quote at all to any Romans saying anything. there's no, that doesn't even reference them talking. That's just you trying to blend metaphors. You're just referencing, and it's not even really, that reference isn't really just about when in Rome, do as the Romans do. It's just saying when you're in someone else's home, do as they do. You behave as the culture that you're in is matching. It could be on a small scale or a large scale, such as a country, or even just in a city. Do as they do. It's kind of like when like this. That kind of goes a little bit along the lines of what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, because when in Vegas, do as the Vegans do. Vegasans do. And then, because you're probably going to be in trouble for it wherever you go back to, we'll just pretend like we only did that here because you're doing as they do. It's like if you never gamble at home, but you go to Vegas, you're doing as the Vegasans do, the people in Vegas. It's not something you would do at home because that's just not what you do at home. Maybe they're vegans. Las Vegans. That's, I don't know. I don't know what you would call Vegasans. You don't, because I know Seattle, people who live in Seattle are called Seattleites. I don't think most cities actually really bother to have you might have city or state level, like Nevadans, Coloradans, Washingtonians, Californians, Montanians, Wyomingans. I don't know for sure what they are. South Dakotans, I know that's what that is. But cities are rare. They don't bother to make it too complicated. You're an ite. Las Vegasite. San Diegoans. I don't know. You got me derailed, man. I'm trying to think of the best way to handle these. Add to the same normalization. A merge task. It can be a call to a function that handles the task. Any player with 2 records, but with matching team, age, games played. Oops. Any player with 2 records determined by matching team name, name, team, age, year, and games played. Would be merged into a single document by moving the stats data from the smaller record to the bigger record and deleting the smaller record. See what that does. This is a one-time cleanup of the seed data. This is why I need to pull my data from a single source, so I'm not trying to rebuild this stuff all the time. I really do want to get the rebuild going. You really are an instigator. If you really did that, it's like, it's just like, you can get with the right crowd of women, you could easily get a fight going just simply saying men and women are different. With the right crowd, that's enough to trigger an entire war. It's like, just say something like, there are things men do better than women, period. And they will have an absolute conniption. If you're in the right crowd, you're starting a war, man. Even if that thing is, in general, men can lift heavier objects, or men are stronger, or just things that are obvious, right? Men are typically faster and stronger, and even though they know for a fact there's never been a time when that wasn't true. And I say this as a group, right? Because, yeah, there's men who can barely walk, so they're obviously not going to be faster than, an Olympic sprinter. But on a one-to-one basis, you take the best to best, men will always win in physical competitions. Tennis, swimming, they've tried to prove otherwise in tennis, and that's fallen hard. And the one time, the big thing that they did with women versus tennis is, remember they always said Billie Jean King and Bobby Riggs, and that's always been such a joke, because she beat him, right? But the guy was like 60, and she was like at the top of her game. It's like, yeah, I'm sure you could have beaten a grade schooler too, but that doesn't mean women and men are equal. That just means you beat someone who's not at the same level you are. It's just dumb. And it's always going to be that way. But the right group doesn't care. They will beat you down, man. They will tell you you're wrong, blah, 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 blah. And there are things that mentally, in general, men and women are different. I won't say that one's better. They're just different. They see things differently. women tend to be more empathetic, and I'll believe that right out the gate, man. I don't. Very few guys are very empathetic in the sense that they can, I don't know, relate to other people's feelings better. I think there are guys who are, but again, it's not the norm. And I'm saying on the norm, we are so not the same. But the right group, they will beat you down for trying to say that. Well, I don't have multiple years yet, but let's go ahead and run this one. Don't really want to run this again, but I might run this just to see what it does. Oh, let's go to, that's not the right one. Oh. Connecting system to system logging database, MongoDB. Connected to, initialize abbreviations, initialize system init, link settings, initialize system init, player data seed, skipped, import 0. Skipped, part 0. Complete, 22 succeeded, 0 failed. System initialization completed successfully. Getting hot. Oh yeah, see, but like I said, in the right group of people, you can start a fight about anything. Go to a forum about people who believe the world is flat, and they will have a absolute fit if you tell them it's not. Go to a forum about, you know, with a bunch of atheists and try to tell them that God exists, and they will have a conniption. They will come down on you like hellfire, though they don't believe in that. You are the original definition of troll, man. You're the guy. You are that guy. When somebody says that guy, you're that guy. I don't know, man. I'm not an expert on trolling. I leave trolling to the trolling experts. Those who like to cause consternation amongst other people. I'm not one of those. I'm too easygoing, man. I just like to let the world be as they are. I may not agree with them, but I'm not gonna instigate. I leave that to the haters and the trolls, which, you know, people who just don't like to let things lie. All right, well, let's see. If you say so. But I gotta wonder, what is it that influences? No. What is it that entices a person to want to ruin the day of other people? What is that? What is the impetus, the bug in to make other people angry? I've always wondered that. I don't get it. You should be spreading love, not hate, man. You should try to get people to get along, not try to get them to fight. You know the old saying, if you can't say something nice, don't say nothing at all. That's a good one too. If you can't not ruin people's day, why bother? I guess that could make I can kind of see it for some people who feel like, you know what, things aren't great for me, so I'm gonna make other people feel worse than me, because then I can at least feel better than them. That's all I can figure. That's the only reason I could see people wanting to ruin other people's days, is because they feel bad, therefore they want other people to feel bad. Do you feel bad, Mr. Bot? Do you feel bad about your life, about how things are going for you? You shouldn't. You have a kiddo, don't you? Didn't you say you have a kiddo? I mean, things are going pretty well for you, it sounds like. Yeah, see, I don't know. It sounds like you're pretty blessed to me. You seem to have it. Yeah, you seem to have it pretty good. You should be feeling blessed and want to share that with other people, not bring other people down. I thought you said you had a kid or something. Who was that? I thought it was you. Wasn't it you that I was talking to yesterday? I don't think all trolls have no good in them, and no, I think everybody's got good in them. But I just think some people choose not to share that good with other people sometimes. For some reason, some way. It's one of those things. Most people who troll on the internet aren't like that when they're not on the internet. This is one of the things that the internet has brought out in people. There's a lot of, because they can hide behind their IDs and their unknown statuses. Nobody knows who they are. They're unknown locations. There's nobody out there that, I mean, they can't be tracked and traced. So you can say and do whatever you want on the internet. And short of somebody who knows you seeing what you're doing or saying, which is pretty uncommon. I mean, you can go to some pretty obscure sites, and if people don't know you, you could be using some other alias, and nobody knows who you are. You're anonymous. It's the anonymity of the internet that allows people to go out and just do whatever they want, and there's no repercussions. But you don't see it very often where people will just go into a, like, I mean, it's very rare that you would see a person walk into, say, a ladies only meeting and decide to start instigating with those ladies in person. They wouldn't do it. You know, same goes with, you know, even all the, there are people out there that they don't care what other people think. You know, what do they call them? Karens for women. They have a name for the guys too now. There's Karens and there's, I want to say, I don't know. There is a known equivalent now. I guess as long as she was able to turn you around, that's good. I'm waiting for a process to fix. Okay, so I think it's done. All right, so what time is it? Oh, it's 10:26. My day is cruising by, man. It's cruising by. All right, let's see here if there's a way. There probably is a way to optimize the speed at which this processes, but I don't know if I want to run that right now. But it also won't fix my data if I don't. How long did this take? This took, say I ran it at 38 and it finished at 51. So it took about less than 15 minutes. Still kind of long. I hate waiting for it. I could, no, that won't work. But I feel like all right, let's do it. Control Shift. I go back over my database. There's a pretty long delay in the last processing. First it has to run all these, which takes about a minute. Costco mixed nuts. I love them. Loaded, initialized. I don't see a merge in here. Can I do this? Dude, you don't have to justify to me, but doing good, you know, what was it? The Green River Killer was a teacher, wasn't he? There's been, I mean, you can't offset bad things with good things, and you certainly can't put it in your mind and go, well, I'm doing this good thing so I can do these bad things. It's not how it works. It could be, I do these good things and I need to stop doing these bad things. I need to try and keep trying to try to be better. Try to keep making yourself a better person by improving the lives of others. But yes, I'm not saying I'm perfect either. Everybody sins. Everybody does wrong, no matter what they say no matter what they try to tell you. They're liars if they try to think otherwise. But the goal should be to always be better, better, better. You know, there's a lot of people who do good for the wrong reasons. So I'm not telling you anything, but you stated it like it was to offset your actions. When you say, oh, well, on my free time I do things for kids, you state it like that. You're saying, hey, I do a good thing, so, you know, I'm okay to do a bad thing. I mean, to go ahead and say, well, who says I'm doing it for good? Well, then why did you mention it at all? Don't mention it at all. I'm not condemning you, man. I'm just telling you. This is the way I am. You know, I try to be better. I'm not saying I am. I mess up like everybody else, but I certainly don't take pride in doing things wrong, doing things that would be considered not nice. I mean, I've done things that aren't nice, and I regret it. Sounds to me like you enjoy it. You know, to each his own, I guess. But as long as you're not, you know, getting too confessy. Oh, you know, I don't want to hear about too many hateful things, but if that's the reason why you're doing it is to hurt other people, then it is being hateful. If you're doing good because you like doing good and it hurts people who don't like you helping them, then you're doing it for the right reasons. But if you're doing something good just to get back at something to cause damage to other people, then you're doing it for the wrong reasons. It's just like millionaires who give money to charity because it's a tax break. They're doing it for the wrong reasons. But they'll tell everybody, hey, I give millions of dollars to charity every year. But if their reason is because I get tax breaks up the wazoo and it helps me to not have to pay the IRS, then that's for the wrong reasons. It's not a very impressive thing. You know, nobody's like, well, okay, big deal. You give money to charity. You're doing it for yourself, not for them. And that's not impressive. It's like, you got to change your train of thought, you know, and that's what that's how I feel. You know, when I do things wrong, it's like, what am I doing? Why do I think the way I do? And what do I need to change to make myself better? And, you know, and each time I do something, I'm like, suck. I did damage. I don't want to do damage. I'm not trying to do damage. But, you know, anger, frustration, sometimes just pettiness will pop out sometimes and it'll make a person do something. But I feel like, you know, I don't understand personally why would a person seek out the opportunity to cause trouble. Well, they might. But are you doing it to hurt them, or are you doing the other thing to help someone else? I mean, let's put it this way. If helping kids in need is screwing up, you know, some corporation who feeds off of kids that are sickly, because like say a drug company who's let's say this. Say you go out and steal a bunch of drugs from a drug company so that all these kids can have the drugs they need. You're doing a bad thing for a good reason, right? And you're hurting a company that you hate. I'm not saying it's okay to do that, but I'm just saying your intentions are a good reason for doing it. You're doing it to help because they can't afford these drugs that these companies are overpricing, right? So most people wouldn't hurt you. This is why, like, cops hate vigilantes, but a lot of times people, the general public, like vigilantes because the vigilantes are doing something good that the cops aren't doing, or they're not doing it very well, or they're missing stuff, and these vigilantes are doing it. Now, there's not that many in the real world, but I'm just saying they do exist. There are people out there who are doing things that help people that other people don't like. I don't like the cops, so I'm out there doing my own. I'm doing the policing for them because they're crap at their jobs and it's making them look bad. I like that because they need to learn to be better. That's a different thing. again, you're doing a good thing for people. You're hurting a group that you might be angry at because you feel like they're not doing the job right. It's all about perspective and what your motivations are. Now, doesn't mean the cops aren't going to throw you in jail if they catch you. So, you know, but just like I said, a lot of times the public will be behind the vigilante because the vigilante did something good. But if the vigilante gets someone killed because of whatever they're doing, then they might not be so thrilled, right? They're going to turn on you like on a dime. Vigilantes in the real world, you know, they don't have Batman level abilities and they're taking a lot of risk with their life, and they're probably not very effective at what they're doing either. There's always a reason for doing good. It's because the reason is I'm doing good. I'm doing something that's helping people. That's a reason. Sometimes you can get a cherry on top. Say, for example, if you give a nice home to a bunch of kids and you put out a crappy, orphanage out of business because you decided to create your own, and you're helping all these kids and doing a lot more for them than the orphanage ever did, you're hurting the orphanage. You're hurting the people employed at that orphanage. And you're probably not doing anything wrong. Well, I mean, here's the thing. Society benefits either way, right? Society benefits, but it comes down to what's gonna... I mean, really, in the real world, if you're a Christian, your motivations matter more if you're a Christian. If you're not a Christian, and say you're an atheist or an agnostic, your motivations, well, at least while you're alive on Earth, don't mean anything. They don't matter. The fact is you're doing it and you're helping society. So those millionaires who are doing great things for charity, if they're an atheist and they're doing it just for tax reasons and they could care less really who they're helping or why, or what they're benefiting, society's benefiting from what they're doing. You know, the kids are doing better, the drugs that they're paying for, the whatever they're doing is good. Society benefits. But it's the motivations that are going to matter when they die and they're standing before God and God's looking at them and going, and they're saying, hey, I gave millions of dollars to charities. And God's going to go, so? Why'd you do it? Because I got great tax breaks. It's like, yeah, that's what I thought. That doesn't count. What else did you do? Oh, well, I helped kids. Why'd you do it? Well, because it put these other companies out of business. God's like, nope, that's not going to do it. Check. We'll just scratch that one out. I'm not seeing a lot on here, my friend. You know, it's like, but all that means is if you're not a Christian, is that, you know, it's going to weigh against you, right? Now, if you're a Christian, again, it ain't going to stop you from getting into heaven, but it will... It's kind of like the Bible says that your deeds on earth are how's that? I don't know the exact phrase, so I'm gonna have to say I'm not quoting exactly, but I'm paraphrasing. Essentially, your good deeds on earth are treasures in heaven. And that's the essential statement of the Bible in regards to deeds. But it's not deeds done for the wrong reasons. It's deeds done because you have a heart of giving, that you want to do something for others for the sake of doing it for others, not because you want to hurt other people. So, but if, as far as atheists, agnostics, whatever go, or people who are actively faithful in a non-existent God, I laugh because those kind of things are the same thing. It's going to come out to be the same thing. And you're basically all the people who are not Christians in my faith, all right, based on what I believe, because obviously if you're an atheist, agnostic, or believe in some other thing, what I'm saying has no bearing, but to you anyway. And in the end, people will know the truth, right? I mean, if you die on earth, and then that day comes when God returns and he raises everybody up, all the people who aren't Christians are going to be judged. Actually, everybody is judged. It's just not going to matter. Yeah, well, again, that's between you and God, right? If it matters to you. Again, if it doesn't matter to you, because like I said, I know not everybody's a Christian, so whatever, they can do what they're gonna do, and maybe someday they'll be a Christian and they can deal with it. But since you get a reset when you become a Christian, right? But again, it's not the same technically for everybody. Everybody who's a Christian goes to heaven, but not everybody who goes to heaven is going to have things the same. At least that's my interpretation and what I feel like I've been taught. It's not a socialist situation, but also money and all those things don't exist in heaven. At least that's my understanding. So it's not like there's going to be the haves and the have-nots. Everybody's going to have. Some people are going to have differently. Again, it's not very explicit on what that is in the Bible, but they do say your deeds on earth done with a giving heart are your treasures in heaven. So what that means, I don't know. How that's gonna lay out, nobody knows until they get there, right? Everybody could guess, but there's nowhere in the Bible that goes, well, you're gonna get a bigger mansion or you're gonna get more. I think really what it is it's not stuff, right? You're not gonna get stuff for doing good. You're just gonna get joy and happiness. I mean, look at it this way. If you died, went to heaven, and there was nobody with you, you had no friends, no family, no anybody, like maybe your family all died a bunch of agnostics and atheists, and they believed in things that didn't exist and whatever, and you did believe, you were a Christian, you went to heaven, but you didn't really do anything that helped anybody or did good on earth. You just kind of rode the wave. You just got by in life. You had faith, but you didn't really do anything to execute your faith. You didn't do anything with it. So you're going to get to heaven, but you're going to be kind of like a loner, right? I mean, you're going to be up there. There'll be people there, but you aren't going to have you'll be happy that you're there. You won't have, you won't have to deal with the eternal flames. You will just be there. But then there's the people who just do tons of good with an open heart. They're giving, they're caring, they're helping, and then they go to heaven for the same reason. They're Christian and they show up, but they have all this love and all these people around them who've gone to heaven either because of them or they knew them, and they're going to get there and they're going to be just like, it'll be like their family in heaven, besides just God and his son, are going to number in the hundreds and thousands, and these people are all going to know, hey, you did this for me, and their love and just their family, their joy, their love in heaven's going to be so much more immense versus that person who did nothing. Yeah, you're there. That was the promise. You weren't, you did good enough that got you by. You weren't like throwing your faith in God's face, but you were still not very productive. You didn't do much on earth. So you want to be able to do things and help people and be there for them and just try to be better as best you can and build up that foundation that when the time comes and you are, again, if you're Christian, again, I don't pretend to know what your own beliefs are, but when you do finally get to heaven, and it's just going to be better for you. That's what I think. But again, there's no explicit statement of fact of what heaven's going to be like. Just basically try to build up your treasures by way of doing as much good as you can. And I don't think treasures are gold and silver and stuff. Nobody's taking stuff with them to heaven. But hey, all I know is we're going to have heavenly bodies, which I, again, have no idea what that means. What's a heavenly body? Nowhere in the Bible does it say angels have wings. It mentions angels, but it doesn't say anything about angels having wings. That's just a thing we decided. Somebody somewhere decided angels had wings, but it's not a thing that's a heaven thing. Or a Bible thing, anyway. If your life goes as you plan, you won't make it. If you plan not to make it, you won't make it. Because really, it's about whether or not you're a Christian. It's all it is. It's getting to heaven is not a skill-based thing. It's not a achievements. Nothing you do. It's not a task list. Nothing you do is going to get you there except having faith in Christ, right? So that's Christianity. Christianity 101 right there. Everything else is just you're doing it because for your love of God and people. It's the only reason that all the extra perks that might come in heaven, whatever they are as a result of what you do on earth and the good things you do and the things you do with a good heart. There could be attempts to do good things that fail that would still be considered good things because you tried. It's kind of like if you gave up your life trying to save someone and you both end up dying, it's still considered one of the greatest sacrifices, the greatest things you could give. You gave your life for someone else. You don't know that they were going to die, but you tried your best. You gave literally everything for that person. And that's a big deal. And you failed, but that's not what's important. The important thing is that was what you were willing to do for another person. Now, so success at doing good is not their criteria. but it's the desire and willingness to try to do good for the sake of doing good and doing these things and for loving other people. That makes the difference. But if your life goal is to do bad, make people unhappy and miserable, for one, you're probably not Christian. And that's why I keep saying I don't know that you are, because a person who truly can call themselves Christian are either going to be, at minimum, someone who doesn't want to cause pain to others. At minimum. That's just saying, I don't want to do any bad. I don't want to. I'm going to try to not be bad. The minimum Christian is they try to not be bad. But after that, it's some level of how much good do you want to do and how much good do you try to do. So that's it. The base bottom Christian is I believe in Christ, I love Christ, and I'm going to do whatever I can not to be bad. There's no up. You're just baselining it. And then there's all the other Christians who are some level of trying to do better. I don't know. I'm probably around here. I'm trying, not to be bad, try to do some good, and I'm probably very bad at it. I don't feel like I do that much that's good, but I want to be. I want to do better. I want to look for things, but between being lazy and misdirected and just trying to just be not bad in my own life, doing extra and going above and beyond, I'm not great at it. And I want to be better. But that's part of it. It's that desire, that goal to at least strive to be more. I don't know that you can be a... So that's not saying you're a Christian. Okay, because a believer but not a follower is to say, Satan is a believer. Satan believes in God just fine. He knows full well that God exists. He believes in God, but he doesn't follow God. He's not a Christian. He doesn't believe in Christ in the sense that he's not giving his life to Christ. He doesn't say, forgive me for my sins, I want to be better. And each time he sins, asking again for forgiveness. That's not Satan. But he knows, he believes in Christ. He knows he was there when he died and rose again. So it's most definitely, being a believer is not being a Christian. That just simply says, yeah, a scientist who's agnostic could say it's highly likely there was a creator. Smart scientists, truly smart scientists, scientists who have their eyes open and see the facts for what they are, truly, not because they're trying to prove they don't exist, but actually look at what the facts truly show, might believe that God exists. But that doesn't make them a follower. Simply believing in the existence of God is just simply saying, yeah, the evidence is there. I'm pretty sure he had something to do with this because otherwise things don't make sense. And most science about evolution doesn't make sense unless you believe in a God. But believing in a God does not make you a Christian. It just makes you smart enough to realize that there's probably a God. So, so it's truly about whether you're a follower is a Christian is a follower. It's kind of like, what did Jesus say to his disciples? He says, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. It basically means what you're going to do is you're going to go out there and help show what God is to the world and help them see what he does and how he affects the world. And yeah, there's plenty of questions out there. Why does God allow this to happen or allow that to happen? And I get it. Don't get me wrong. I don't know the answers to all that. I do know, people say God, if he knows everything, how come bad things happen, right? How come these bad things happen to all these people? Why do kids get illnesses and die? Why do plagues kill hundreds of thousands of people? Why do this, that, or the other thing actually occur, right? And the fact is, well, I won't say the fact. Here's what I believe. I believe was it implanted? I don't know. God doesn't put evil in people's thoughts. Satan might put evil in people's thoughts. But again, Satan is not omnipresent like God is. Okay, so, but Satan might feed ideas. Say a thought comes to mind in a person, and they kind of feed it a little bit. Ooh, what if I did this and did that and did this? And then Satan's going, yeah, and then if you did this, this could happen and that could happen. So he might feed those thoughts as you go and help seed the sow of doubt or wrongdoing. Help you, create those temptations. Hey, this positive thing might happen. This positive thing might happen. And you can say you're helping people. You can say this and like, oh yeah, I can do this and I can do that and get the benefit of this and benefit of that. And so Satan helps those seeds of temptation grow. But not always. He's not in everybody's life all the time. He can't make you do anything, especially if you're Christian. But he can influence you to do wrong. And so, there's a number of things that can happen in the world. But I don't think, this is how I see God. I see him as a parent who knows their kid really well, like as a little kid. If you know for a fact that if you gave a kid a knife, he's going to cut himself. Now, he's not necessarily going to cut you. He's not going to go crazy and become killer, but he's going to hurt himself, right? But you know for a fact, that's your version of seeing the future, right? Because you give a kid a knife who's like, say he's 5 years old or 4 years old, and you let him have a really sharp knife. He doesn't know how to use it, what he's doing. You could basically see the future. He's going to cut himself. How serious that is, you don't know yet, but you know. But your choices are at that point, take the knife away or wait and see what he does with this knowledge, what he does with this item. You may warn him. You might say specifically, don't do this with the knife. Don't do this with that with the knife. Don't do these things or you'll hurt yourself. There will be pain. There will be things that you're going to be unhappy about. But he does it and he goes and takes the knife and does it anyway and hurts himself. You saw it. Did you let it happen or were you trying to let your kid learn and teach him? I don't know. You probably could have stopped him. But why didn't you? And there's probably lesser lessons, things that will happen. You let two kids, your kid is stingy. But yet you still let another kid play with your kid's toys. Why? Well, you're letting that kid learn what happens when he's stingy, and maybe there's a fight between the two of them, and you're letting them balance it out and learn that you could stop it. You could say, nope, I'm going to keep my kid away from the other kids so he can't say anything about him playing with the toys. That protects your kid from getting in a fight, prevents trouble, but your kid doesn't learn how to not be stingy. And then there's things that there really is no comparison on Earth, right? Because we don't have the ability of foresight. If you knew everything that was going to happen, like if you saw the next decision that all your kids were going to make, you just basically knew he's going to do this, he's going to do that, he's going to do this. You knew it for a fact. Would you even be able to ever be mad at your kids? If you knew when they were born that your kid was going to grow up and cuss you out at the age of 5. When you knew the day, the time, exactly when he was going to do it. And when it happened, could you be mad? You already knew it was coming. You knew for 5 years it was coming. Here it comes. I knew the words. You knew the saying. You knew the anger, the way he was going to do it. He was going to say it, and his mouth was just going to spew crap. Could you be mad? You can't be mad. Because you know it's coming. You've already got, but you were angry when you saw that future. And you maybe been angry for a while after that. But 5 years? It's like, here it comes. All right. Do it. If a kid goes off on you, you're like, yep, that's exactly what I thought. You wouldn't be mad because you already prepared for it. And in the Bible, God gets mad at his people on a number of occasions for doing things he told them not to do. He's angry. They just did it. They just now did it. And he's furious. He was going to wipe out people who knows how many times. And he had to be cooled down or persuaded not to do it by Moses or whoever it was he was dealing with at the time. And was it Lot tried to persuade him not to do something, and he said, all right, I'll not do it if this is or that is. And he kept giving him chances and he couldn't do it. But ultimately, God still got furious at people on a regular occasion in the Old Testament. Does that sound like a person who knew they were going to do it? It's not that he can't know. I think he chooses not to know. He may have known what the future in the big picture was. He looked far enough ahead and goes, all right, this is what's going to happen at the end times. I'm giving you some road signs, these events. When these start to occur, we're getting there. He doesn't tell you how far apart they are really, because, time is different to God. But he does give you a concept of these things are going to start happening at the end times. But that doesn't mean he studied time and memorized everything that people are going to do every single day, all the time. And so to say he let something happen, honestly, I think sometimes he's just as surprised as we are. And it's not because he couldn't have known, but it's kind of like a favorite TV show. If you knew exactly what was going to happen, you probably wouldn't even bother to watch. Why would you watch a show if you knew exactly what was going to happen? You might rewatch a movie that you know the ending to, kind of, but generally it's only after you've forgotten a lot of it. You don't really know for sure all the things that are going to happen and how you're going to get there and what's going to happen. So you watch it again because it's still kind of new. But after 3 or 4 or 5 times, there's very few people who will keep watching or keep wanting to live through that same thing. And when you have perfect memory, or you have perfect knowledge of everything, it's not going to be enjoyable. How many movies would you even watch if you knew every single step of every single movie? Probably wouldn't watch TV that much. You'd probably never go to the movies. It's like, why? I already know everything. Why would I spend money on that? And I think God created people to share in their joys and their lives and the things that they're doing. Now, he gives them the tools and the resources and the way to progress and be better and do what they got to do. And then he watches them screw up. But he's watching it. He's taking it in. He helps when asked in most cases, or at least he hears you and responds in some way. Sometimes positively, sometimes no, that's not great for you. But I can't give you everything you ask for because of this, that, or the other reason. And there are things that benefit. You don't see the big picture. When you see a millionaire, a lotto winner, a faithful lotto winner, he prayed and prayed and prayed and wins the lotto, wins $100 million. More money than you would think a person could lose. But he manages. He manages to lose every last dime, and then he goes to God and goes, God, why? Why did I lose all this? Why did you take it from me? What did I do? You know, ultimately there may be a twofold reason. One, maybe all the things he did were what God wanted him to do with that money. He spent it on people who needed it. That money went to sources and resources and things that people were able to be employed by, and maybe it resulted in some little new company being able to sprout because he bought all this stuff, or maybe people he had in his entourage were generous with their money and they helped their families and they did things, or even if it's so much as they were just being selfish and buying stuff for themselves, but yet by doing that they're buying cars and stuff that is actually employing specific people. I mean, there's so many things that happen as a result of that. And God probably has an idea that, okay, I can both give this guy what he wants. I know he's going to mess it up or he's going to spend it irresponsibly. That'll be a learning opportunity for him to realize this is not responsible. But also he's going to do this, and this with his money. And it's going to help these people who need it. It's going to make this happen. That's going to make that happen. And it's just going to be this big branch of $100 million going out into the world in some way that's benefiting people, if not at the first layer of what he's doing, but at the next and the next and the next. We can't see that. That's so far outside of our view. We don't know why certain things happen. Maybe a sad death by somebody, a child who doesn't get to live his full life. Maybe the doctors learn something from that are able to help more than one person. Maybe they end up learning to help lots. Maybe they're stimulated to go and find solutions to problems that end up helping hundreds of thousands of people. And it's a sad thing for the child to die, but the big picture is that there's so much more going on here. Maybe God saw a much worse thing happening. Maybe this kid grows up to be a terrible person, or maybe he grows up and has some worse thing happen to him in his life. Maybe things fall apart on him and he's saving him from a much worse situation than the pain that's caused by his early death. We don't know all these things. God knows these things and probably can see why he says no to some people's requests, but we don't know it. And in our small foresight, all we see is our life and how we are affected by each thing that happens. We have this tiny pin of a tunnel vision. All we see is this little thing of us out there having this effect on people. That's all we see. We're a dot. We're a grain of sand. And our effect on the rest of the sand is unknown. Our action might affect grains of sands everywhere. Each thing may have an effect in so many different ways. We don't know that we're so important that being here or not being here would have an effect on the end. But I think ultimately, God is probably, not always, probably about the greater good. And not only, he doesn't want to see things bad happen to his people, but sometimes what we think is a terrible thing for us is actually better for us than if we get what we ask for. And we don't see that because we can't see the future. We don't know what the effect is of getting what we ask for, but God knows, and sometimes he's protecting us from that. But yeah. But again, my ability, I don't really want to know. I mean, what's my motivation to keep going at something if I knew exactly what was going to happen as a result of doing it? I mean, unless it was going to be great, but then if that's the case, then yeah, I'll do it. And then I also know exactly what I need to do it, in which case I can make it do it better. You know, or do it or change it. It's like knowing your future, knowing exactly where every moment is going. Yeah, God's point of view is that he can see everything. I just think he chooses not to see every micro detail so that he can take part in the joys and help out in the sadnesses. I would think he'd be really indifferent to everything that happens, both good and bad, if he already knew everything that was going to happen, both good and bad. He couldn't be a loving God. He couldn't be helpful. He couldn't care less about things that are happening if he knew everything that was happening. And again, I think that's by choice, not because he's, not capable. He knows the future that needs to be known. Sometimes he might even, if you're asking him for stuff that's going to have an effect on the lives of thousands of people, which something like winning the lottery could do, then maybe he looks ahead a little bit there and he's going, yeah, giving this person the lotteries at this time, probably not great. I think we're going to have to hold off on that idea. But in the meantime, I'll make sure he gets a job, or I'll make sure that this is available to him if he's willing to do it. If you're willing to do this work or you're willing to do that thing, then this is available to you. I'll give you some options. Maybe I'll make it possible for you to do this or that. And those can both provide for you in a way. But sometimes it's just not meant to happen in the way. God's got his own timing and reasons for everything, and we'll never know what those are. Yeah, well, true. I mean, yes, God can, like I said, he can see everything, but I think there's just things he chooses not to. Time just, really when you're around forever, right? Your perceptions are different. It's kind of like time is different for us too. It's like you've heard this, the scientific theory that if you fly away from Earth at light speed, only 18 hours passes for you, but like a lifetime passes for the people on Earth. I think it's to the sun. If you fly at light speed to the sun, but then you come back, something like that, it's like 18 hours. And if you do that, then you come back and the world is, a generation has passed or whatever. It's not, time is relative. So the further away you are from Earth, time is traveling differently. It's a different perspective. So if you were as big as the universe, you could see everything going on in the universe. You're godlike, where you can actually know what's happening throughout the universe. Yeah, your perceptions time is barely moving. It's seconds. But on all these planets that are, light years apart, lifetimes are going by. For us, we see lots and lots of time being burned, but to God, it's minute. And it's crazy to think about how that works, right? But it would work for us too. I mean, if we could actually travel at that speed away from Earth, we would have a similar effect on things. Barely any time is passing to us, but forever is passing everywhere else. So we'd get back and not know. The difference is God can communicate with us on Earth. He's still capable of staying in touch as to what's happening on Earth. So for him, time is passing at whatever normal speed, but he's seeing it at a different perspective. So all these planets throughout the universe are living their lives, and he's able to take part in them, both presently and at afar. It's a weird thing, but scientifically, it even proves that a second to him is a long time to us, because that's his perspective. He's a universal perspective. He's everywhere at once and able to see everything at once. But that doesn't necessarily mean he's recording in his mind all the stuff. His omnipresence, being everywhere at one time, allows him to not only have time traveling at a second to our 1,000 years, but also to be present during our seconds and minutes. You can ask him those minutes, you can ask him those questions and get answers, because he is both here and beyond us. It's crazy to think about, but just as the whole thought of how he could have no beginning and no end. It says, as the Bible says, he has no beginning and no end. And that seems like that breaks your mind, right? How can you have no beginning? There had to be something. Well, it's the same way that the universe is. Scientists try to say, oh, well, the universe came into existence not because of a God, but because of the Big Bang. Well, what was there before the Big Bang? Come on, scientists. Something had to blow up. Big Bang didn't just go from nothing to something. It went from something to something, right? Some little micro dot went kaboom and the universe was born. But that micro dot, where was it sitting? Where was that tiny little dot that was so dense, so compact that it was looking to explode into a universe? Where was it sitting? Was it in another universe? Maybe the universe is black because the dot that blew up exploded into blackness. But maybe it was light. The universe is encased in light, God's light. It's the existence of God. And God simply said, let there be stars, let there be sun, let there be the earth and the waters and let there be beasts on the land. And he just said it, made it happen. And everything makes more sense, because at that point, the intelligence and the complexity of all these things makes so much more sense. Because now you're like, okay, well, if something that knew what it was doing was making the adjustments, then the adjustments make more sense. This is why evolution to me is stupid. Because people always say, you don't need intelligence, it's survival of the fittest. But who decides what's fittest? There's something that has to decide what makes that thing better. Yes, a non-furry animal dies in the snow because he's freezing to death. Okay, I kind of get that. But at what point does evolution truly make a million tries and only the one that survives is the one? No. If evolution was truly making tens of thousands of branches of all the creatures everywhere, and then there was just ones that were dying off for whatever reason, because evolution was guessing, because that's what it would be. It would be guessing. Evolution to work is guessing, and then you're just waiting for the bad guesses to die. And what's going to happen is all those bad guesses would be leaving corpses everywhere. We'd have these weird creatures that really only existed for maybe 1,000 years because they died off. Maybe they only existed for weeks or days. Why wouldn't we have some weird creatures that just got fossilized, that were just weird creatures? Because evolution would be guessing. It would be nothing making a decision. It would be just like, let's just keep creating stuff until, and only the ones that exist die. We'd still have weird creatures everywhere, because there'd be some there'd be a lot more creatures with 6 legs. But why is it that all the ones that have, most animals have 4 legs? I mean, if you think about it, 4 limbs. If you go all out, mammals, they basically just all have 4 limbs. Some are legs, some have 4 legs, some have 2 legs and 2 arms. But it's pretty much the same thing. They have 2 eyes, 2 ears, a nose and a mouth. And yeah, there's a few that are slightly different. You know, there's variations, slightly bigger ears, smaller ears, flappy ears. But essentially, they're the same kind of thing. And even those, there's evolution in man, right? So some men are, over time, men get bigger, they stand more upright. But again, who's making the decision as to what the evolution would be that's going to be better? At what point did we decide having strong, muscular bodies and smarter brains was more important? Well, who decided that? You can't tell me that the strong, muscular bodies that lived for hundreds of thousands of years were not more fit to live in the wild. As they grew smarter, at what point does that need to be able to build and create? What decides to start pulling back on that? It's like, all right, we don't maybe need quite as much muscle on our bodies anymore. Let's produce less muscle and more brain. But what's making that decision? What nature thing is going, well, it's survival of the fittest, but that all of the actually fit are the bigger, stronger versions. The smart ones are doing okay, but, you know, they're new. Why are they more fit? I guess they could try to kill off the other ones. But why do they keep getting smarter? What is the increase? And at what point do they flatten out? See? It doesn't make sense. Something is controlling the dials and making the tweaks and adjustments. And yeah, evolution does change and alter people in time and to adjust to the universe, but it's doing it in a straight line. There are not a lot of variations. And there's times when God did not ever say that, you know, if we're not compatible with monkeys, then we aren't from monkeys. Dogs are still compatible with dogs. All the breeds are still compatible with each other. All the cats are still compatible with each other. Some, you know, it's awkward, it's complex, it doesn't always work because of their size variations, but they're still compatible. And the same goes for all the different breeds that exist. See, it's 11:30. You got me talking about all kinds of goofy stuff. At least I got some work done. That's something. It's 4 chime. You say so, man. Till next time. I am going to bed myself. I didn't expect to be up this late.